Doyle calls and sees the bad news. Barry Greenstein rakes in a pot worth more than $250,000.
So before he became a meme, Barry Greenstein dominated the biggest cash games in the world. He's friends with Doyle Brunson, he's friends with relive. He's a poker Hall of Famer.
Yeah, in short, BG is an OG, and when he played in a different BG, aka the Big Game, he won over 400 grand.
So of course, we have put together a compilation of the biggest pots he played, and guess what? You're watching it right now. It's this video. So watch it, enjoy it, and then subscribe for more.
Barry makes the call. Heads up to the flop. 6-10 queen, 2 clubs. Barry checks top pair.
Daniel flops the World's Fair. He's got more outs than a baseball game.
Daniel bets 5,500. Barry quickly calls. 5 of hearts on the turn. Barry checks.
Daniel's whiffed completely, but you can see he's still got almost 50% equity in this hand.
$12.5.
Daniel fires 12.5 grand.
With this bet, Daniel's building his own implied odds. He could take it down right here, and even if he gets raised, he's got so much equity, he could still make the call.
Barry just calls. The river. 4 of diamonds. Greenstein checks.
Well, Daniel flopped the World's Fair, and all he ended up with was a couple of bricks that reek oddly of Carney. He knows that he probably can't win this pot by checking, and maybe he's thinking that he's built the pot enough to set himself up for a river bluff. Personally, I think it's going to be pretty tough to get Barry off his hand when no realistic draws came in on the turn or river.
Bet 32.5.
Daniel bets 32,500, and Barry calls and wins.
Big as it gets. Yeah.
Barry wins another 6-figure pot, this one worth more than 111 grand. Biffer calls with suited connectors. Barry calls with 10s. Antonio's out.
Even with a hand as big as queens with 3 opponents, Chau's still a dog to the field.
4 to the flop, which is 9-10 tray. Greenstein checks his set.
Chau's a much bigger dog now. This could get very ugly for him.
He leads out, betting 4 grand.
By checking, Barry allows Chau to continuation bet. Since it's a continuation bet, there's a bigger chance it's a bluff and it's more likely to get called.
Rick calls with bottom pair. Biffer folds.
By checking, Barry gets to build himself a pot without even having to act strong.
He raises to 13,000.
Now, Chau has to be a little worried about the strength of this check raise. Rick's call may have juiced the pot for Barry, but Rick's presence hurts him a bit here since his check raise wouldn't look as strong in a heads-up pot as it does against 2 opponents.
Chau doesn't get away from it. Calls.
There goes the dead money.
Chau's dead to a queen or running straight cards.
The turn card. 8 of diamonds. No immediate help to Chau, but it does give him a straight draw. Barry fires 20 grand.
Barry's made a bet, but an 8 is the last card he wants to see since Queen Jack is the most obvious draw out there. Even still, Barry's taking advantage of the fact that his hand is going to be good here most of the time.
Chau does call.
Barry's acting very strong. Chau may have gotten away from this had he not picked up the extra 4 outs to the gut shot.
And of course, when Barry Greenstein's involved, an ace on the river.
This is a great card for Barry to like his hand, but not a great one for getting value since it's a scare card for Chau.
Barry bets 42,000.
That's a boy, not bad.
Barry's made a value bet for a little more than half the pot.
Crazy, how bad are they doing this thing?
At this point, Chau can't beat most of the hands in Barry's range for the way the action went.
Oh, man.
Just about 40% of his stack to make this call.
3-9, 3-10.
Pocket queens is nothing but a bluff catcher at this point.
All right.
Chau calls. And Barry wins the pot.
310 นะคิดว่าชม
Action folds over to Barry. Suited
I'll
connectors.
tell him. I probably didn't show it.
Raised to 1,500. Antonio also suited. Not connected. Re-raised to 4,200.
Antonio's trying to make a move here.
Chau folds his ace. Rick in the big blind. Also out.
Well, first of all, Antonio should win something just for getting Rick to fold.
Barry calls.
Even though Antonio's 3-betting light, he is the favorite.
Trey 5-6. Barry top 2 pair and checks.
Barry's going to check to the pre-flop aggressor.
Antonio has an up and down straight draw.
Since Antonio re-raised pre-flop, it's going to disguise the fact that he's holding a 4.
Esfandiari bets 7,200.
There's a lot of bad cards that can come. Barry may not want to see another one.
Barry comes over the top to 21 grand.
Total bet 21.
Nice raise from Barry. If Antonio's drawing, he's going to pay for it. And there's a chance if he's holding an overpair, he may stack off with it. Antonio knows he doesn't have the best hand.
so it's
13,800 on top.
It's 15% of his stack to call. Calling is probably not an option for him. To me, this raise from Barry said he's pot committed, so I'm not sure he'd fold if Antonio shoved. Shove or fold appear to be his only 2 options.
There's the shove.
Turn moves all in.
And there's the call.
And a call.
Oops.
Good luck, boys.
Twice? Deal.
Barry refuses to run it twice, and Antonio refuses to show.
This is the one time someone's hoping to be dealt 7 deuce. You can see Antonio's outs. He can also hit running diamonds.
A king on the turn. No help to Antonio.
Antonio's down to just those 7s and deuces or he'll be felted.
The river card for all of Antonio's dough is a 4, and Barry wins.
Nice hand.
Barry re-raises to 6 grand. Pocket kings for Daniel.
I'd expect to see a 4-bet here typically.
Nope, just calls.
Was that just for TV time, or you really got,
Yeah, this is for TV time.
you got that tough a hand?
I was confused. I have a very good hand.
Yeah, I bet you do.
Doyle's not getting the right odds, but he is in position.
And calls.
I think by not raising, Daniel was hoping to not chase everyone out, but now he's got to play kings against 2 opponents.
The flop, queen deuce Trey, top pair for Barry.
This is exactly the kind of flop Daniel wanted.
Greenstein fires 10 grand.
Barry and Doyle both have a piece, and Barry's piece is big enough to lose him a lot of money.
Daniel just calls. And Doyle calls with middle pair.
Even with a piece of this flop, that's a pretty loose call from Doyle.
Unless you get trips on the turn. Barry checks.
Barry's now got the nut flush draw. Daniel will have no idea someone hit this 3.
This is fun. Right off the bat, I have no idea what to do.
He knows with this many players along for the ride, his kings are very susceptible.
I check.
Daniel checks.
I don't know if Doyle used instinct, intuition, or got incredibly lucky, but he has both of these guys in bad shape. If Barry and Daniel were checking to trap, they are in trouble.
Doyle bets 21,000.
Something tells me Barry doesn't like this bet, but in this spot, he's going to have the best hand a fair percentage of the time, and with the nut flush draw, he's even less likely to be drawing dead.
Barry, a little hesitation move, but he calls.
Daniel can't really like that bet either, or the call from Barry. He's right to think about this hand, but I don't see how he could get away from it, even if his spidey sense is going off. Like Barry, he's just not going to be beat very often in this spot. Having to make this decision is one of the pitfalls of slow playing big pairs pre-flop.
Daniel calls. The river. 4 of diamonds giving Barry a flush.
Barry called the turn hoping to hit a diamond. Let's see if he still likes it.
All in.
He does. Barry's all in.
Those are pretty much the kings of comedy at this point.
Daniel folds.
That's a card I didn't want to see.
I don't really see Barry making this play without a flush or a full house.
I call it.
Doyle calls and sees the bad news.
You turned a 3 to a? If I raised the flop, I would have lost the whole thing.
Yeah, I wasn't going anywhere.
No, I had you.
You had me beat?
Uh-huh.
Jeez.
Barry Greenstein rakes in a pot worth more than $250,000.